Well, students, we're going to finish up these dragons today. If there are things that you still would like to build, like say you need to do teeth, or you want to do a tongue, or you want to do horns, or these scaly textures around the back of the dragon, you may. I'll show a couple quick examples. Horns and teeth, very similar. Just take a little piece of clay like this, roll it up. These little pieces dry out really fast. You could just shape it in your fingers like this to make kind of a triangle shape. You could also take it and just roll one end. That's what I did for the horns. Just make sure that they're not too long. You can see that little piece looks kind of small, but it's plenty big when it's back here. I will end up using this piece as one of the scaly, spiky things along the back. Now, always add a little bit of water and make your slip, and then take this, press it in. If it doesn't look like it's sticking very well, then take your stick tool and just kind of roll that in a little bit and smooth it down with your finger. Then I'm going to take this piece here, add a little bit of water, roll it up. I mentioned this last time too. Sometimes instead of doing pointy shapes, just doing a half circle shape or something instead could work out nicely. Or just even like a little dot, a little ball of clay instead of these pointy ones would go a little bit faster. Always make your slip, stick it together, make sure to just kind of roll that in and smooth it down. Now, when you have everything made that you'd like to have made, then we are going to start using the tools. I'm going to show how to make those in a lot of different ways. I'm going to add a little pointy part to the tail just by rolling a little line like this. I'm just going to shape this like an arrow shape like this. Add a little bit of slip. And then we'll put that around the tail. For textures, there's a lot of different things that you can do. This pointy tool has two ends. You could use the pointed end or the round end, and this could do a couple of dots. You can see I'm kind of spinning it because sometimes it'll crack if the clay has dried out a little bit, so just adding a little bit of water sometimes is good. And just kind of spin the tool a little bit. And if it does crack, like mine did right there, you can just kind of smooth it and then just do it one more time. Adding this tool kind of does a nice texture just kind of around the nose here. Just giving it just a little bit of detail. So I'm kind of using that curved line and then using it also on this end. There's a little piece of clay that's stuck here. Sometimes when you do that, it will reshape the ends of the nostrils. So I'm using the non-pointy end here. I'm just going to kind of twist that and reshape those, but I just think that's kind of a cool little texture. You can take these tools, as well as there will be a knife tool. This tool does a nice job. I got to put my finger under the chin so I don't break it. That can create a nice line for the tongue. This could create some good details for eyelashes or just a little bit of texture. It doesn't have to be eyelashes, could be something else, just like a line texture. And then if I have the face done, I'm going to do a texture on the body of the dragon. This works pretty well to use it like this. You can use it this way too, doesn't really matter. But I'm just going to take this and I'm going to stamp in a row of scales here. And then I'm going to stamp in a row underneath that. It's kind of like a brick set pattern. And then we'll keep going. And I'm going to carry that right up here, even along part of the face. Now you can see I'm holding this in my hand. For some reason, I'll have students where they're trying to do textures when it's on the table. So you want to make sure you're holding it in your hand so you can turn it around, and you're going to do the same exact thing on this side. Sometimes it gets a little bit tricky And you gotta turn it a little bit to be able to reach the tool around the legs. I'm gonna do a third row right down here too. And we'll go all the way down along the tail. We'll do this side too. And then I'm gonna flip the tool over, and I'm gonna use it this way just to show you that it does a different texture. It looks different if you use the other side. And I'm just gonna put 2 of these between each of those little triangular spikes. This is, I think, my favorite part about working with the clay is using all these tools to create textures. For the feet, if you just stamp in some claws, this will just help it stick to the base as well. So it's not only giving it detail, but it's functional, just kind of pressing those pieces of clay together. Then, if you did want to add a little bit of nail detail or something, you could stamp that in as well. Just trying to be careful not to smush my other texture, because sometimes when you do that, you'll have to come back. I'm just gonna stamp that line back in, which is not a big deal. And I did that here too. When this is done, let me use another tool, because if somebody's using a tool, you should pick something else. This tool does kind of a cool texture to do kind of a grippy, kind of a broken line texture. You can see I'm trying to use different things so that it's not gonna be all the same thing all over my dragon. I'm gonna reach this in here. That one's a little tricky to get it to go all the way in there. And I'm just gonna make this look like that texture with this stick tool, because that'll be easier to reach in there. Then I'm gonna do that little bit of texture also up at the top here. And I should put something on these, probably these scaly, spiky things. So let's just keep this simple with just a line. So the other end of this, that's bumpy. This one is smooth. You can see I'm holding it with my finger so that it doesn't bend and break. Then turn it around, get the other side. When you're done doing all the textures and the details on your dragon, then you should work on the base. So here, I'm gonna use, if you wanna make lines, I would use the knife tool. And this tool does a good job just doing straight line. It's much better than using a stick tool. It tends to be kind of bumpy. And I'm gonna carry that line, I'm just kind of visualizing it across. And then I'm gonna do that here. And then I'm gonna make sure that that just extends as here and here. And then that can carry out here and here. Sometimes just rolling the tool instead of drawing with it, just kind of rolling it. This one can do a good job just doing a little bit of curved line texture. And if you invent a way to do textures, that would be cool too, if you invent a fun way to make something. Just be responsible with the tools. And then I even like to add a little bit of texture to the edge. So I'm gonna take this tool, the stick tool, and just kind of roll just like a little bit of texture around the edge of this. Now, this is where we want to be. I would say this is done, but if you have extra time and it's got all your textures on it, looks like your best, and you want to add a rock or you want to add a nest or something, you can. I would just set your dragon down. You do not have to do rocks in a nest, but a rock would be really easy, just rolling up a ball of clay like this, just kind of shaping it. That could be a rock shape. A nest, you don't want it to be too big, so you can easily just put it on. I would just roll up a ball of clay like this, put your thumb to make kind of like a mini pinch pot. Then, once you have a little mini pinch pot, roll up a couple of dragon eggs, and then we can take these and put this on. And since this is so small, it's already got texture, I could take that, put a little bit of slip, push this down like that. That's gonna stick, put a little bit of water inside it, drop my dragon eggs in there. And if you are concerned about it sticking, you can just press it down underneath there with your stick tool. And then same thing, if I were to put this rock on here, I would just stick this on here, press it down good, and then just make sure, just kind of press those edges. If you make a rock or a nest, just make sure it's not too big. Otherwise, I will ask you to take it off, and make sure that when you're doing this, that you're not smushing all of the designs and the textures that you just made. And I can take this, and maybe I put a couple of dots on it for dragon eggs, and I put a little bit of texture and design on my nest, okay? If you have extra time, I might just ask you to set yours aside or bring it up for putting names on them, and I got to write your names on the bottom. And if there's extra time, we'll talk about if there's anything else that you could work on. So let's have fun finishing these up. I think this looks really cool once you add all the texture and all the details using the tools. So let's have fun.